with thorns. The ground was covered with nettles, and its stone wall was broken down. Then I saw, and I considered it. I looked and I received instruction. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like a thief in the night. You see, this field, you could tell it was once valuable because it had a stone wall encircling it. But because of lapses, the field was overgrown with thorns and nettles. Now, what is our job today? Our job is to realize that maybe in that field there are roses. We know it's not going to be an easy task to get to them, because amongst those roses and what grows on them, thorns. Sometimes you can't get to the roses without getting stuck. But we have to fulfill the legacy of King. We have to brave those thorns, those nettles, so that we can get to the rose. When we get to those roses, when we cultivate them, when we make them bloom, and we make them blossom, and we shine them so that the beauty comes through, we will realize the legacy of Dr. King. Thank you. Let's give another applause for Jesse Doyle and King's Legacy. Before we move on with the program, we will have Amy Sanchez, Vice President of Unity CDC, to recognize the public officials.
Good afternoon. What a beautiful crowd. Thank you all for coming to support Unity CDC, the Brother to Brother program at Joliet Township High Schools, and the Family Self-Sufficiency program for the Housing Authority of Joliet. A couple of words really briefly that have been recognized today is the quality of life. And I think part of Dr. King's legacy was to push the quality of life. I encourage everyone to read the Quality of Life Plan at Unity CDC's website and know that our mission is always to push the quality of life in Districts 4 and 5 further. And without further ado, I'd like to recognize the elected officials and the candidates that are here today. If you would just stand to be recognized when I call your name, and please hold your applause to the end. Larry Walsh Sr., Will County Executive. Herb Brooks Jr., Speaker of the Will County Board. Associate Judge David Garcia. Will County Auditor Duffy Blackburn. Will County Board Member Denise Winfrey. Larry Walsh Jr., State Representative. Judge Tom Thanis. Councilman Larry Hugg. State Representative Natalie Manley. District 86 School Board Member Gwen Ulmer. Senator Pat McGuire. Congressman Bill Foster. JTHS Board Member Don Dickinson. JTHS Board Member Ardell Evans. Brian Benton, Chief of Police. Chris Lunningman. Lunningham, thank you. Beth Ann May, Joliet Township Clerk. Mike Turk, City Council at Large, sorry. Jan Quillman. Glenn Markham, JTHS School Board. Sorry, Tyler Markham, JTHS School Board. Sorry about that. Glenn Markham, Park District Board. Timothy Broderick, Park Board. And I'm not sure if there's any elected officials that didn't get to sign in at all. Welcome, thank you so much. And if we could just briefly recognize the candidates as well. Maria Dunn, Second Sub-Circuit for Judge, candidate for Judge. Tina Filipiak, Second Sub-Circuit for Judge. Jim Murphy, Second Sub-Circuit for Judge. David Garcia, Second Sub-Circuit for Judge. Dan Kennedy, Second Sub-Circuit for Judge. Ed Bradley, Will County Sheriff. And Diane Harris, for 3rd District. Thank you all.
Justice Thomas Kilbride could not be with us today. As you know, that we're supposed to have a snowstorm, and he was coming up from Springfield, and the conditions were dangerous on the road. So in his place, Ardell Davis will introduce our keynote speaker. And before we start, we have another quote. Then I'll bring Ardell. There you go. The men and women who gathered 50 years ago were not there in search of some abstract idea. They were there seeking jobs as well as justice, not just the absence of oppression, but the presence of economic opportunity. I stand on the shoulders of Dr. King. Is it A, Muhammad Ali, B, Frederick Douglass, C, President Barack Obama? So I have to go with the show of hands, right? Well, I don't have to go with the show of hands on that one, right? A, Muhammad Ali, B, Frederick Douglass, C, President Barack Obama. Yes. C, President Barack Obama, anniversary of Martin Luther King's 50th I Have a Dream speech. Next up, we have Ardell Evans. I did that one earlier, didn't I? Yeah.
I understand. I guess there's a cost if I spelled his name wrong in the ad book, so it's really only fair. It's really only.
DHS Board Member Ardell Evans, Brian Benton, Chief of Police, Chris Lunningman, Beth Lunningham, thank you, Beth Ann May, Joliet Township Clerk, Mike Turk, City Council at Large, Jan Quillman, Glenn Markham, JTHS School Board, Tyler Markham, JTHS School Board. Sorry about that. Glenn Markham, Park District Board. Timothy Broderick, Park Board. And I'm not sure if there's any elected officials that didn't get to sign in at all. Welcome, thank you so much. And if we could just briefly recognize the candidates as well. Maria Dunn, Second Sub-Circuit for Judge, candidate for Judge. Tina Filipiak, Second Sub-Circuit for Judge. Jim Murphy, Second Sub-Circuit for Judge. David Garcia, Second Sub-Circuit for Judge. Dan Kennedy, Second Sub-Circuit for Judge. Ed Bradley, Will County Sheriff. And Diane Harris, Congress for 3rd District. Thank you all.
Justice Thomas Kilbride could not be with us today. As you know, that we're supposed to have a snowstorm, and he was coming up from Springfield, and the conditions were dangerous on the road. So in his place, Ardell Davis will introduce our keynote speaker. And before we start, we have another quote. Then I'll bring Ardell. There you go. The men and women who gathered 50 years ago were not there in search of some abstract idea. They were there seeking jobs as well as justice, not just the absence of oppression, but the presence of economic opportunity. I stand on the shoulders of Dr. King. Is it A, Muhammad Ali, B, Frederick Douglass, C, President Barack Obama? So I have to go with the show of hands, right? Or I don't have to go with a show of hands on that one, right? A, Muhammad Ali. B, Frederick Douglass. C, President Barack Obama. Yes, C, President Barack Obama, anniversary of Martin Luther King's 50th I Have a Dream speech. Next up, we have Ardell Evans. I did that one earlier, didn't I? Yeah.
I understand. I guess there's a cost if I spelled his name wrong in the ad book, so it's really only fair. It's really only fair. Vincent Cornelius is the principal of the law office of Vincent F. Cornelius, a law firm located in Wheaton and Joliet. Mr. Cornelius's practice has focused in civil and criminal litigation. Vincent began the practice of law in November 1989 as the first African-American prosecutor in the history of DuPage County State's Attorney. As an assistant state's attorney, he took more than 200 cases to trial prior to establishing the law offices of Vincent F. Cornelius. He was an attorney with the law firm of James D. Montgomery and Associates, known as Cochran and Montgomery. Vincent's natural father died in an automobile accident on October 13th, 1983. I'm sorry, 63. It's 686. Who said that? You read better than I do? Come on up here and you read it. This here like a book, all right? I'm trying to get started, all right? And then you jump in there and shake me up. Hold on. You hold on. I got 1963. Okay, I'm gonna get to the high point here. They're all high points. Vincent's mom, I guess he's gonna do his own introduction, y'all. I'm telling you, look, it's a dadgum book. I'm trying to stay on the timeline. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as you stand and welcome our keynote speaker for the inaugural Martin Luther King Unity Jazz Brunch here in Joliet, Illinois, Attorney Vincent Cornelius.
Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. King always said that he didn't like long introductions. I am honored to be here this afternoon, and I want to thank Unity CDC, and I want to thank Ardell Davis Evans for this tremendous blessing, this tremendous opportunity. You know, whenever I listen to a speech, I like to get a little historical context. I also like to learn a little something about the person who is speaking. I need some balance here. And I also like to have a theme or something that I can take with me from that speaking opportunity. And I have something in common with all of you, and that is I just don't like a long speech either. But I am honored to be here today. There is a history to Martin Luther King Day. And a bill was first introduced in 1979 by Congressman John Conyers and Senator Edward Brooks. It failed by 5 votes. There was a significant and tremendous resistance to the movement towards a day celebrating the legacy of Dr. King. And then there became a resistance to the resistance. And the resistance to the resistance became a movement. And we all remember in 1980 when Stevie Wonder wrote the song Happy Birthday to Martin Luther King, challenging our government to celebrate his birthday and to make it a national holiday. In fact, that song has now became an anthem, and has now become an anthem in the African American community on birthdays. 6 million signatures were submitted to Congress in favor of a King holiday. Finally, on November 21st of 1983, Ronald Reagan signed a bill creating a federal holiday. However, this did not mandate that the states observe it, and many states did not. And as you know, Arizona and South Carolina were stragglers in this regard. It wasn't until it wasn't until the Super Bowl was moved from Phoenix to Pasadena, costing the state of Arizona some $500 million, that the rest of the country and the other states started to stand up and take note. And then finally, in the year 2000, South Carolina was the final state in our country to give the King holiday as a paid holiday for its employees. And so I stand here today, and that's just some of the story of the King holiday. I have a story too, some of it you have heard. My story, interestingly enough, begins more than anyone I know of in utero, when my mother was expecting me. In the fall of 1963, in fact, on August 28th of 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King on the Mall in Washington gave the speech that we all know so well, that I Have a Dream speech. Changed the face of the civil rights movement. And then shortly thereafter, on October 13th of 1963, my father died in a tragic auto accident. My natural father. I was given an adopted father, and my pop is here with me today. And then shortly after that, while I am still in utero, on November 22nd of 1963, at the age of 46, John Fitzgerald Kennedy was assassinated. In the spring of 1964, I say after what must have been a somber winter, I was born on May 1st. Because that civil rights bill was not signed by Lyndon Baines Johnson until July 2nd of 1964, I was born in a segregated ward of an Arkansas hospital. To a single mother, the son of an already deceased father, in a southern state infamous for the Little Rock Nine. Less than a month before my 4th birthday, Dr. King was assassinated. These men whom I would never know, struck down in the primes of their lives, provide a great legacy for me, and their legacies loom large in my mind, in my heart, in my life. I would have the bloodline of my natural father. Many people tell me his height, his genes, his personality. I would get the middle name Fitzgerald from John Fitzgerald Kennedy, and I would inherit the dream of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. I would not begin to learn about King and Kennedy until I was in elementary school. Those things were just not talked about much around our home when I was a small boy. When I learned about King and I first began to hear his speeches, I would be captivated. My mind would be arrested by just the sheer imagery of his speeches. I listened to him talk about Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Euripides, and Aristophanes assembled around the Parthenon, discussing the great questions of reality, the great and eternal questions of reality. He talked about that being one of the places he would like to be if God would give him the opportunity to go any place in the world that he could choose. And he said that he wouldn't stop there, that he would stop by the Roman Empire, and he described that in such a vivid fashion that you were almost there. Then he said he would stop by the Renaissance period. And then he said he would not stop there, but he would go on by the doors of the church at Wittenberg in the year 1507 when his namesake Martin Luther tacked on the doors the 95 Theses. He talked about 1863 when Abraham Lincoln would have to sign the Emancipation Proclamation. He talked about FDR in 1933 at his inaugural address, saying that we as a country had nothing to fear but fear itself. He said that he would like to see all of those things, but that still, even having to choose between seeing all of those things, that he would still like to have lived in the second half of the 20th century. He acknowledged how peculiar and how strange and how odd that was, given all that was going on in America in the 1950s and 60s, particularly for black people. He talked about all the things that he would not have wanted to miss, how significant that movement, that window, that period of time was in American history. And so today, I stand here to celebrate that man. I wondered as I watched people step up here before me and talk about the method of King and the legacy of King, and I talk about those things, I wonder if there's going to be anything left for me to talk about. And I assume that this weekend and Monday, behind podiums like this and in pulpits all over America, people will be asking the question, have we achieved the dream? Tomorrow morning on Face the Nation and every other show on ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox, just like every other year, they'll be asking the question, have we achieved the dream? Many will say yes, many will say no, many will stand on the fence and vacillate. And if you think I have the answer to that question this afternoon, you are sadly mistaken. I do not. But I came to suggest that there is perhaps another question, that there is perhaps a different question, an equally relevant question. And that question is, do you have a dream? Yes, do you have a dream? Do you have a dream for yourself? Do you have a dream for your family? Do you have a dream for your country? Do you have a dream for your community? Do you have a dream? And if you do, I have another question. Are you willing to make the necessary sacrifices for your dream? Because Dr. King boldly proclaimed, if a man hadn't found anything worth dying for, he isn't what? He isn't fit to live. And ultimately, however you see it, whether it was prophetically or ironically, he eventually died for his dream. That dream that he declared is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream, that this nation would rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Dr. King's willingness to die for his dream, to suffer for his dream, to overcome the obstacles to his dream, to stand up to resistance to his dream, to pursue his dream against all odds, all dangers, even death, was an inspiration to me. It let me know that I could do all of those things for my own dream. But I noticed that something very interesting happened in Dr. King's life. Over a significant period of time, you know, success is, true success is rarely overnight. It's very gradual, rooted in a lot of struggle and difficulty and hard times and difficult times. But on August 28th, 1963, Dr. King gave his I Have a Dream speech. He clearly had a dream that was not just an African-American dream, but a dream that was truly an American dream. What Dr. King challenged America to do was simply to be who she said she was, to be equal, to be just, to be fair. But Dr. King soon transitioned. He had he had many great speeches, but the two that we hear the most and the two that we play over in our minds the most seem to me to be the dream speech and the mountaintop speech. A dream is a thing that has not yet come to fruition, a thing that has not yet been realized. A dream is a thing that is associated sometimes even with the imagination. It is said that some people's dreams are so wild that they're hallucinations, that they're even fantasy. Someone even said that a dream without putting any act in motion is nothing but a hallucination. But real life experience is more closely associated with our senses. What I have seen, what I have heard, what I have tasted, what I have felt, what I've touched. That's what our real life experiences are more associated with. It's a little bit different from a dream. When you've seen it, there's that sense of having been there, having done that. On the night of April 3rd, 1968, April 3rd, 1968, is when Dr. King gave his mountaintop speech. And he wasn't that night talking about his dream. And I don't make light of the dream, but he was talking about something else. He was talking about his moment on the mountaintop. He said that he had been allowed up to the mountaintop, that he had looked over, that he had seen the promised land. And he said, almost knowing that he would not be alive that time tomorrow, he said, longevity has its place. Everyone wants to live a long life. He said, but I'm not worried about that now. He said, I'm not fearing any man. He's now beyond this place of his dream. He's beyond this place of wondering what it will be like for a people. In fact, he says, we as a people will get to the promised land. Then he said something kind of haunting almost. He said, I might not get there with you, but we as a people will get to the promised land. Again, I don't make light of the dream. The dream is a profound thing to have for all of us. But there had to be something between the dream and the mountaintop. Something between the dream and the mountaintop. And I wonder what it was between the dream and the mountaintop. I wonder when Dr. King was allowed to go up to the mountaintop and to look over and to see the promised land, I wonder what he saw. Did he see Barack Obama? If he did, then he probably also saw Trayvon Martin. Did he see Oprah Winfrey? If he did, then he probably also saw young Hydea Pendleton, struck down in her childhood shortly after leaving and participating in the inauguration. Did he see Michael Jordan? If he did, Lord help us, because he probably saw Dennis Rodman too. On the African continent, when he passed, Nelson Mandela was incarcerated. When he looked over, did he see Nelson Mandela released from prison to become elected president of South Africa? Shortly before King's death, he saw Thurgood Marshall appointed to the Supreme Court in 1967. I wonder if he saw him replaced by Clarence Thomas. Did King see black doctors, lawyers, judges, engineers, educators, entrepreneurs, U.S. senators, congressmen, great men of the cloth like himself? Did he see that?